how to download the asset with textures from UE5. Yeah, in the last session I did say that I was going to show you guys how to do it. So I will show you guys a brief example of it currently. So I'll just open this link quickly. So there is a different way in which you need to kind of export your particular object with the textures to kind of be able to be used in the marketplace. So what you need to do is, I think the default workflow that most of us that normally follow is, I'll kind of give you an example by creating one simple cube from scratch here. So you'll simply head over to the modeling tools, and under the modeling tools, let's maybe we'll take a simple box. For example, I'll click on this to spawn one, and we'll head over to our select section. Okay, so by default, when you import your particular model into from Shaper 3D into Unreal Engine, it would look something like this. And it would have like either no texture or a white texture, but yeah, there wouldn't be any color or anything. And the goal in Unreal Engine is to basically apply those textures to your particular scene. So I'll go ahead and let's add a material to it. Let's maybe add a pink kind of material that is there, or maybe a red material. Alright, there is a red. Let's just take this bluish emissive material here. Okay, so I've got my material added to my particular cube. Now, what we would do by default is we would kind of search where the static mesh is stored at. Just click on save. Let me just open it up. And I'm not sure if. Okay, got it. So I did not attach it to this particular value here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to simply get the position of this material. We'll open up this mesh by double clicking, and I'll just input this material over here like so to change it over here within this static mesh itself. So this static mesh has this material applied to it, and yeah, the same thing will work automatically on this side. Of course I can change it, but for now we'll just keep it the same. And I think if I just quickly save my scene, what we'll do now is we'll head over to the static mesh. You can simply right click on it, go to the asset actions, and then you can export it here. Now, by default, it exports as a FBX. You do have OBJ copy, and you have other file options. For now, we'll just stick with the FBX option, and we'll click on save. You want to keep everything the same. It shouldn't matter, and you can export your particular model. So I think it's already exported. Let me head over to my desktop, and this particular box is here. Let me open it for a second, and you'll notice that there are no textures. So which is pretty normal. You will not find the textures by default exported. So coming back, yeah, so now that we've exported this cube, I'll quickly show you guys how that kind of looks in the normal 3D modeling viewer. This is a 3D viewer. You can see that there are no textures that is visible by default over here. So that is pretty common. So anything that you export, any static mesh that you export from Unreal Engine, it wouldn't export it with the textures. That is simply because we are exporting it in an FBX format. And in an FBX format, your textures and your meshes are kind of separated, which means they are two different segments. And this is pretty much like a rule in almost all formats that are available. You have your FBX format, you have your OBJ format, and there are two other formats that exist, which kind of help you to export your model in the form in a mixture of your textures as well as your meshes, and that is your GLTF and your GLD formats. Basically, you have your box here. Now, Unreal Engine does have a few plugins which is related to GLTF. One is your GLTF importer, and you have your two GLTF importers basically. So when you use GLTF or GLB, you would see on Sketchfab that there would be some models that have a dot GLTF format instead of a dot FBX. That simply means that both the textures as well as the mesh are combined into one. Now, Unreal Engine only has the option to export it by default as a FBX, an OBJ, a copy, and a .3D file, which is not your GLDF format. Now, in order to kind of be able to get both of them together, you would either have to find a way to convert it into a GLDF, which typically I personally do not use that often, but it is a solution in which you can kind of convert your FBX into a GLDF. There might be plugins available online that can help you do the same. If I do find some plugins, I will definitely share it with you guys. But what the usual pipeline is, a person would right click on the material that they want to export along with their particular mesh. They will go to asset action, they would export this particular asset as well, and yeah, save it in their desktop along with that. So basically, once you get both of these two, you can create a folder called textures, get this one in here, and get this particular model. I'll just quickly share my other screen to show you guys that part as well. I have my two files over here. One is the textures, which has the material as well as the .fbx. Now, basically, what you can do now is simply get this particular model out into some other software and then add the material to it, and then you can kind of export it from that external software as a .gltf format. So when you export it as a .gltf format from by combining these two textures together with this mesh from example Blender, you can get a .gltf, and then you can finally export that .gltf format into the marketplace, and then you would get your two textures together. So this is the explanation of how that entire process works, and I'll kind of share a more detailed video going through it using Blender as well, because currently I do not have Blender on this system as well to kind of show you how that entire pipeline would work. But I'll share a video by next week or as to how this entire process works, or in the next session I'll install Blender and I'll show you guys how this entire thing works.